In his second start with the Texas Rangers, Jacob deGrom looked like the best freaking pitcher on the planet, maybe in the history of baseball. We're going to break down how great he was, why this is exactly who the Rangers thought they were getting, and a look at Josh Jung, who had a fantastic day and a fantastic first couple of series to start off the season. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Comment all the things that watching Jacob deGrom made you feel, because it made me feel so many freaking things. The Rangers won 5-2 over the Baltimore Orioles. Were able to get a masterclass of a performance from Jacob deGrom that still left him pissed off, despite it being an absolutely phenomenal start. He began the game with 4 perfect innings. I was just sitting back there watching Jacob deGrom cook and just absolutely cackling maniacally like a freaking supervillain. This guy is on the Texas Rangers. He's on the Texas Rangers for the next 5 years, maybe 6 years, if he's healthy and everything goes well and he keeps doing these type of things for the next, 4 or 5 years. It's special. It's absolutely unparalleled. The Rangers were able to get him a couple runs in the bottom of that first inning. You thought that's it. It's game over. It's Jacob deGrom on the freaking hill, and he is on less of a pitch count than the last time out. He was in the 70s with his pitch count this time was able to go 92 pitches in this one. So I'm thinking that next time he might be able to go the full 100 mark in his third start with the Texas Rangers. But I mean, there's a thought that maybe even if he was limited to 90 pitches, maybe he might pull a Maddox, because he was just so incredibly efficient to start out this one. The final line looks fantastic. 6 innings, a pair of walks, a pair of hits, a pair of runs, only one of which was earned because of an error by Marcus Semien, but 11 strikeouts on 92 pitches. The guy is just unreal. Normally you see a lot of strikeout pitchers who struggle to go deep into games, who struggle to be economical with their pitch count. But when all of your pitchers are so freaking good that nobody can make contact with them, no one can, really do much of anything against them, then you don't need to throw a bazillion pitches to get your strikeouts. You just go 1, 2, 3 and, good morning, good afternoon, good freaking night to every single hitter in the lineup. The guy was just absolutely unreal. And this is the kind of guy that you pay $185 million that might end up looking like a freaking steal. And when this contract is all said and done, I mean, it's just unreal. Like, it's been one amazing Jacob deGrom start and one pretty good Jacob deGrom start, and I'm already running out of words to describe the beauty and the majesty of watching Jacob deGrom throw baseballs for my favorite baseball team. And it's only going to get even better. And this is an outing where he was not happy with himself. Things did spiral on him a little bit in that 5th inning. He said he was having some trouble pitching out of the stretch. That's where he does most of his bullpens, because he said that's where I need those, where you make the biggest pitches with guys on base. And things kind of added up on him in that 5th inning. Things got a little bit away from him after the perfect game was done, which, I'll be honest, I was kind of a little relieved the perfect game was done in that 5th inning, because there might have been a chance, depending on how economical he was with his pitch count, if he just, got up against the 90-ish pitches, which I think was what his limit was, if he could have a chance at a perfect game, because it's just one of those days where it's like, oh, Jacob deGrom is just otherworldly good, and when his stuff is on, you just can't do a darn thing about it. And I don't care who you are, unless if you're Ryan Mountcastle, you can go and get some extra base hits that can ruin the perfect game and start a rally. Adam Frazier was able to drive in a run, and an error also happened in that 5th inning that allowed another base runner in the inning to continue. But Jacob deGrom got got right back on that horse, even though he allowed I believe it was a leadoff walk in that 6th inning, which is kind of when I thought, okay, this is about time when they're about to go get him, because he's kind of racking up the pitch count, and he's not really having his same command. Yeah, a leadoff walk to Adley Rutschman, but then a brilliant play, a strike him out, throw him out, caught stealing of Adley Rutschman, a great throw by Jonah Heim, who did struggle to contain the running game last year, as did Mitch Garver in his 15 or whatever games that he actually caught. Same with basically every other Rangers catcher last year, really struggled to contain that running game. But you have Jacob deGrom, who throws 99 miles an hour and throws it at the top of the zone. It makes it real easy to pitch and catch to second base and tag out the guy. Even if Adley Rutschman is a little bit faster than the average catcher, he is still young and spry, but he is still a catcher. So the Rangers were able to nail him by a wide margin. The Baltimore Orioles are very aggressive on the base paths, so I thought that might be something that Baltimore would take advantage of, this Texas Rangers team. And they really weren't able to do so, and deGrom was able to calm down a little bit after that, was able to get Ryan Mountcastle with his 11th strikeout of the game to end that inning and finish off that 6th inning, get through 6, just allow the 1 earned run, and have an absolutely phenomenal start. Look at his stats on the season. He's still not positive in the WAR board because, well, that first start was pretty rough, but he is leading the team in innings because, of course, he has 2 starts, 9 2/3 innings, an ERA, which was over 12, is now at 5.5, and also has 18 strikeouts in 9 2/3 innings. That's 16.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. It's just stupid, man. It's just absolutely stupid that this guy is real and a pitcher for the Texas Rangers. Yeah, the overall numbers look kind of ugly right now. It's 2 starts. It's fine. We saw what it looks like. Someone asked me on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, is this what it looks like to have a true ace? And my answer was no. This is not an ace. This is the best pitcher of his generation. That's what this looks like. An ace. An ace is pretty good. The Rangers have had aces before. Yu Darvish was an ace. Don't you talk back to me. Peak Yu Darvish was an ace. When Cole Hamels, I was about to say Cole Reagans, when Cole Hamels was on his stuff, that was an ace. Lance Lynn at the peak of his game, that's an ace. But this is something entirely different. This is something that the Rangers have not seen. This is something that the baseball world has not seen. This is a transcendent talent, a guy who just, we've not seen anything like him, and I don't know that we ever will again. So you thank your lucky stars. You find some illegal stream or however you can to watch every Jacob deGrom start. If you have some friends who are not baseball fans and you want to get them into baseball, just show them a Jacob deGrom start, and they'll know. Even if they don't know anything about baseball, they'll watch this guy and go, oh, yeah, this guy's pretty different. This guy's pretty fun. And you might be able to make some of your friends begrudgingly get into baseball, and then they'll blame you once they're obsessed with it and it ruins their lives. But it'll be great because they'll be watching Jacob freaking Grom. Coming up, we're going to get into a little bit of Josh Jung's fantastic game, fantastic series so far, and how I am so impressed with him, and I'm taking a little bit of my victory lap 6 games into the season. But first, this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure a player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right. The first time around, just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's that easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. This episode is also brought to you by Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here, and we all know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's the time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. So when you go vote, you get for your favorite bar or puff, you will be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one lucky Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. you have got to try Built. It is the best tasting protein bar ever. Seriously, they are so freaking amazing. You won't think that they're good for you, but I promise you they are. They're rich in protein, low in sugar, covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. So run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. Now, Josh Jung has been off to a fantastic start. He is leading the team of guys who have played more than Mitch Garver. We're going to exclude Mitch Garver, make him the cutoff of 4 games. Josh Jung has played all 6 games for the Rangers this season. He's hitting .318 with an on-base of .375, slugging .636, a 1,011 OPS with a pair of home runs, tied with Mitch Garver to lead this team. And he has been absolutely phenomenal defensively as well, making some charging barehanded plays, making some diving stops, making some just generally pretty good plays. His arm strength looks a little bit better. Maybe that's just me willing into it, but the overall defensive acumen of this kid has been vastly improved. It's been talked a lot about in spring training. We've seen it in the regular season, and we've also seen him have some big at-bats, including the go-ahead home run in this one to give the Rangers a lead, a 2-run shot to give Texas a 4-2 lead in the 6th inning. The Rangers were also able to get another insurance run later on that came off the bat of a Nathaniel Lowe double, his second of the season. That scored Ezekiel Duran. By the way, shouts to Ezekiel Duran for stepping up and getting some more plate appearances while Josh Smith is still recovering from injury. He has not been back in the lineup. He is going to be, I think, just fine, thankfully. It was a little scary moment when he got hit in the face by a pitch against the Orioles, and I believe the series opener in this one, but really glad that he is okay. Also on the mend is Leody Taveras, who is rehabbing Thursday night as I am recording this with the Frisco Rough Riders. He is DHing there. We'll see when he can get back into the lineup, be the everyday center fielder, then have more of a regular defensive outfield of Adolis Garcia in right, Robbie Grossman in left field, and Leody Taveras in center field. I think that is going to be the pretty much everyday alignment. We're talking about Josh Jung, who has been absolutely incredible to start the season, having some really important clutch at-bats, including a big walk in the opening day game against the Phillies in the middle of that 9-run inning. He was able to churn the lineup over. I believe he walked right before Robbie Grossman hit that home run, that 3-run shot to tie the game up in that 4th inning, I believe it was. Back then. It's been like 5 days or a whole week since then, so forgive my memory for not being that spot on at this moment. But Josh Jung is a guy who I've been high on for a long time. It is not just my Red Raider bias. It is because I am a Red Raider, and I've seen this kid literally since he was a 19-year-old, and I've seen a lot of overthinking about how good this kid can be because last year was kind of rough for him at the big league level. But again, he was still coming back a little bit probably too quickly from injury. He'd had 2 different random injuries that had taken a lot of time from him the last couple of years. Thankfully, he made it through spring training healthy. Despite that car crash, thankfully, he's just okay. A lot of random freak injuries, a broken foot in 2021 and a shoulder injury in 2022 that took out most of his season. We thought would take out all of his season. But because he comes back and he doesn't absolutely dominate the first 25 games of the big leagues, everyone's like, I don't know. Maybe just Baseball Prospectus. Maybe I'm just projecting basically just what Baseball Prospectus is doing as well. But Baseball America had him down a little bit as well. And same with, I believe, the Athletics top 100 prospects had him down a lot lower than I thought he should be. MLB Pipeline still had him in the 30s overall, the top 100 prospects in all of baseball. And I think that's about where he should be because this guy is a flat hitter. He is a good hitter. I think he will be a fine defensive third baseman, and I think he will continue to get better. And I'm not worried when Josh Jung struggles because he has the one thing that I think is most important in a professional athlete being great is their absolute single-minded desire for greatness. I don't know if it's necessarily healthy in other careers, just being so single-focused on one thing. But if you want to be really great at baseball, then you are just solely minded on baseball. Then that's really going to help you. He's a guy who is just so incredibly dedicated to his craft. It feels like it's such a cliche, but it's honestly accurate. The guy just cares so much about baseball. You saw that when he was rehabbing in those times when he was hurt. He was always in the dugout picking guys' brains, watching video, like just always wanted to be around baseball, is just so obsessed with it. And when great athletes are the greatest, it's because they have that obsession as well as the natural talent. Josh Jung is a guy who has all the natural talent in the world and an incredible obsession with baseball. I think that's the thing the Rangers like the most about it. I don't want to project. That's the thing that I like the most about him. And I think that is the biggest sign of a guy's future ability to have success. Is a guy who can, deal with some struggles and be always trying to get better, because eventually, if you start to get cocky, feeling yourself, you have to get a little too sure of yourself and you're not still trying to improve, the game will pass you up and it will, spit you out and you will regress because everyone else will have progressed faster than you. But that is not something that I'm worried about with Josh Jung. I think he's going to be a very big part of this lineup. And him and Adolis Garcia, those guys in the middle third of the lineup, which it seems like that's where they're going to be. If those guys, we know what the top three in this order can do. We know Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and Nathaniel Lowe are all going to be amazing. That's great. I mean, it's been a little bit of a struggle for Seager so far, which I'm a little surprised that he doesn't have his first home run of the season in his first 6 games at Globe Life Field, because he hits so tremendously well at Globe Life Field. I'm not worried. He's still hitting the baseball hard. He's still walking. It's fine. It's 6 games. We'll be fine. And he had some pretty drastic home road splits last year, but Josh Jung and Adolis Garcia, if those guys can be nearly close to this good, I don't think Young's going to have an OPS over 1,000 for the full year. It's not impossible, but I don't think it's necessarily likely. And if Adolis Garcia can have an OPS around 897 like he has right now for the full season, then that's going to take this team into a scary next level stratosphere. And also if you can get a healthy Mitch Garver for the full year, DHing more often than he has been, I think that would be just a massive recipe for a dangerous lineup with one Jacob deGrom at the top. Coming up, we'll look at this series in Chicago at Wrigley Field. It's been a long time since the Rangers have been there, where this Cubs team stands and how the Rangers stack up there. But first, this episode is brought to you by So Rare, a new sponsor we have here. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. So Rare recently partnered with MLB All-Stars Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez to serve as brand ambassadors. Both are featured in So Rare's current brand campaign and will engage with the So Rare community throughout the season at MLB events. Head to SoRare.com/lockedon. That's SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's SoRare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Now, this Rangers team goes off to start their road series, their first road series of the season. All afternoon games against the Cubs because it's Wrigley and that's just what they do there. And a couple of national TV games as well. The Rangers' first game Friday is going to be at 2 p.m. Central Time. It's going to be on Apple TV Plus. Unlike last year, this will not be free on Apple TV Plus. You have to have an Apple TV Plus subscription. So if you didn't take advantage of that last year, sorry. So sorry, Charlie. That's too bad. Them's the breaks. And then on Saturday, the Raiders have another afternoon game at 4 p.m., 4:05 Central Time. That is going to be on FS1. Martin Perez versus Justin Steele. That Friday game is going to be Nathan Eovaldi versus Marcus Stroman. Should be a pretty good matchup. We'll see if Nathan Eovaldi can bounce back from a so-so first game as a Texas Ranger. This Cubs lineup doesn't really scare me all that much. And then on the Sunday game, 2:20 p.m. to close this one out, John Gray versus Jameson Taillon. Martin Perez versus Justin Steele is the Saturday pitching matchup, and it should be a pretty decent one. Justin Steele is a youngster for these Chicago Cubs, had a decent year last year. This year, he started off with a great first start, 6 innings of shutout ball, just 3 hits, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. Also, Marcus Stroman had 6 innings with 8 strikeouts and no runs in his first start of the season. They also have a former Ranger, Drew Smiley, in the rotation, who the Rangers will not end up seeing. I'm not seeing any other former Rangers in this bullpen or rotation, and not any former Rangers on their roster either. They do have a few new faces, including their multi-$100 million, I believe $185-ish million for their new shortstop, Dansby Swanson, who is already off to a blazing start, a pair of home runs, a pair of RBIs for him, hitting 500 and slugging 600 so far. Former Ranger great Patrick Wisdom is on this team. That is the only, I knew there was one guy. I couldn't remember exactly who it was. They also have Ian Happ, who is a very, very solid player. Cody Bellinger, the former MVP, on that weird 1-year deal, who is manning center field. Trey Mancini, the former Oriole and unfortunately Astro. And it's just kind of a weird combination of guys, this roster. They've signed a bunch of guys that it felt like, maybe this guy will work out, maybe not. Cody Bellinger, Eric Hosmer, and Trey Mancini. Of those 3 guys, I think maybe one of them will end up being an average MLB player. It was kind of a weird offseason for them. They spent a bunch of money on Dansby Swanson. They made some pretty decent investments in the rotation. I believe Marcus Stroman was signed last year, and Jameson Taillon was signed this year. I think he'll be fine. But kind of a weird team that is like kind of on the come up and like halfway committed to actually spending money. This is a team that can always afford to spend money because they're in a huge market, and Cubs fans are diehard loyalists. Everyone wants to go to Wrigley Field, so those games are always being sold out, despite them always not being the best. They also lost Wilson Contreras, who was the last core piece they had from that 2016 World Championship run. And now everybody else is just gone. They're all gone. Chris Bryant is gone. Anthony Rizzo is gone. Jason Hayward is now on the Dodgers. And weirdly actually doing pretty darn well. But this is not a team that I think is going to give the Rangers a whole lot of trouble. They have some decent pitching. It should be some decent pitching matchups, but I'm not super worried about their offense. Justin Steele had a decent year last year. Stroman is a fine pitcher, but again, it's not anybody that I'm super, super concerned. Last year, Justin Steele pitched 24 games for the Cubs, 119 innings, an ERA just over 3 at 3.18. He is 27 years old. And again, solid first start, but it is just one start. And I think this Rangers team should be able to pull 2 out of 3 against this Cubs team. They really need to keep this momentum going. I've talked about it a little bit before, but this is one of the series, especially keeping that momentum after coming off that fantastic outing from Jacob deGrom. The Rangers need to take advantage of these early season games against less good teams. Right now, the Rangers are tied atop their division at 4-2 with the Angels. The Angels, I believe, have the tiebreaker at this second because they've played some AL West games and won them, where the Rangers have not just yet. But the Rangers cannot afford to let these early season games not matter as much as they have. They've done a good job of making sure every game counts. They have been making defensive changes. Again, that is something that I think is a Bruce Bochy thing. It's something that why he is such a good manager, and something I wanted to go back to about him, just the 2 things that I keep coming back to in almost every single one of these wins, actually in every single one of these wins, is the unique way that he uses his bullpen and how willing he is to make defensive substitutions late in games, in close games. It was a 5-2 lead. But Bruce Bochy is like, no, we're not going to take any chances. We're going to put out our best defensive out for these last couple of innings, and we're going to throw exactly who we want in relief when we want them to be in relief. The Rangers extend their scoreless streak from relievers. I believe it's at over 20 innings at this point. The Rangers have the lowest ERA from their bullpen in all of baseball. They've only allowed 2 earned runs from relievers. One of them was allowed by Jonathan Hernandez. One of them was allowed by Brock Burke. And this Rangers bullpen, normally you think, all right, you'll give each guy 1 inning, and that's kind of what they'll do. And that's pretty standard. But what was really confusing is that he brought in Will Smith to come in that 7th inning. And you're like, okay, Will Smith's basically just a 1-inning reliever. That is just kind of what he is. And then he brings him back out there for the 8th inning. And of all the guys in this Rangers bullpen, Will Smith is one of the guys who I think that's not really someone who I want to see multiple innings of. And I thought, okay, well, how long is he going to have him in there? It was another lefty that was starting that 8th inning. So instead of bringing in Jonathan Hernandez to start that inning and face against lefty, they thought, all right, let's save Will Smith for one more out, because the Rangers will have a day off on Thursday, today, as I'm recording this, before the series in Chicago. So what's throwing Will Smith for one more out against the lefty, or one more batter, I should say, against the lefty? He ended up getting the out. Jonathan Hernandez comes in and gets 2 outs and does walk one, and Jose Leclerc comes in, gets his first save of the season, does not allow a single base runner, does not have any kind of chaos, and is now tied for the team lead with Will Smith in saves with 1 so far this season. But a great outing for him, and again just one of those little things. It's like, okay, letting one reliever get 4 outs and the other one get 2, and then bringing your closer on for the standard 3-out save in a exactly 3-run game. But again, it's those little things that make the difference, and it's why Bruce Bochy is making such a big impact. I mean, the Rangers have had a lot of big characters and I think good people as managers the last few years. I think Washington was the right manager for that team at that time, but tactically, I don't think that any of them are quite to the level of Bruce Bochy. I don't think he is quite the level of coach that necessarily any of the other guys were. I think Woodward is more of a coach. I heard the Diamond Pod talking about this. Pretty great podcast from the Ticket. They're talking about the difference between a coach and a manager, and Bruce Bochy is not really coach. He's not giving. They don't think he's. I tend to agree with them that they don't think that he is giving these necessarily like specific pointers like Ron Washington of like giving the ins and outs of like how to play this exact defensive infield position and exactly how to react to this type of ball this way or the other. Same with Woodward or with some of the other coaches on this staff. Which that's their job. Bruce Bochy's job is to manage the personalities, to manage the lineup, the bullpen, and put these guys in the best position to succeed. And I think that Bruce Bochy being in charge is kind of, I mean, the Rangers have made a lot of improvements the last few years in the offseason, but I think that nationally, the reason this team is going to start getting respect is because people will start looking around and saying, oh, Bruce Bochy's there. That's one thing I heard on the Cespedes Family Barbecue Boys podcast, is that they were changing their mind about the Rangers. They were a little skeptical this offseason, even after signing Jacob deGrom and improving their entire rotation very, very drastically. They're just like, well, you can't just really typically throw a whole bunch of money at a team and just completely turn everything around. But one of the things that they said is Bruce Bochy's in that dugout. Bruce Bochy got off his couch after 3 years, and he didn't do that if he thought that he was going to, manage a team that sucked. He's not going to do that. That's not who Bruce Bochy is. And I mean, look at the teams that Bruce Bochy took to the World Series and won World Series with in San Francisco. I think these are more talented teams than those San Francisco Giants teams. I mean, they don't have Buster Posey. I don't think anybody that's quite that level of surefire Hall of Famer, just incredibly clutch, great guy on this team. Maybe Corey Seager will end up being that, but like, still, it was really not a whole lot else that besides Buster Posey and friends and some really good starting pitchers. The Rangers have some really good starting pitchers. They have a really good defensive catcher. They also have one catcher who's really good offensively. If you combine both of them, maybe they would be Buster Posey. But the Rangers also have an entire lineup behind those guys that are also really freaking good. A $500 million middle infield. They have a silver slugger at first base. They have a young, scrappy, very good third baseman who is a rookie. They also have Adolis Garcia in the outfield and Robbie Grossman, who's pretty good, really good. Doing his best out there, and a deep team and a bullpen that he knows how to manage, that has their strengths, and Bruce Bochy is getting the most out of these guys and making them a very, very efficient bullpen. I am really excited about this team, really excited about a winning homestand. Hopefully the Rangers can go on the road and kick the crap out of these Chicago Cubs and come back on Monday still atop of this AL West. But that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Rangers. I'll be back tomorrow with an episode talking about the minor league season starting, where the top prospects are, and what you need to watch for on Friday. But for your second listen, go check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. You can win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy every Jacob freaking deGrom start.